So we were discussing why antacid preparations are used. Prompt sustained action, no significant effect on bowel movement, no significant effect on gastric emptying, and dose of individual compound is reduced so that systemic toxicity is less. Now the antacids are basically used nowadays only for the symptom relief in cases of dyspepsia, non-ulcer dyspepsia, gastroesophageal reflux, heartburn, but not for ulcer healing, because for ulcer healing we need very large doses and very frequent administration, so that is inconvenient for the patient and there is risk of acid rebound. Why acid rebound? That is due to reflex gastrin release by raised pH, and there is risk of bowel upset also. So status of antacid is only for symptom relief in reflux, dyspepsia or heartburn, not for ulcer healing, because we have better drugs, PPIs, H2 blockers. So coming to the next group of drugs useful in ulcer treatment is the drugs which are known as ulcer protectives. Third group, ulcer protectives. This includes two drugs, one is sucralfate and other one is colloidal bismuth subcitrate. Now coming to sucralfate, it is basic aluminium salt, basic aluminium salt of sulfated sucrose, right? Sucralfate, it is basic aluminium, Al, see the name, aluminium salt of sulfated sucrose. It has a unique mechanism of action. It is minimally absorbed from the GIT, so basically it exerts a local action inside the stomach and duodenum. When the pH is acidic, less than 4, it polymerizes. So this part is important. At physiological pH it is neutral. At neutral pH it is ineffective. When the pH is acidic, less than 4, then sucralfate gets polymerized and it changes into a sticky gel. Now this gel gets adhered to the base of the ulcer and stays there for more than 6 hours. That is, it covers the ulcer crater, and over the this gel-like sucralfate there gets deposition of proteins, surface proteins as well as dietary proteins are deposited, so there is formation of a sort of physical barrier for the action of bile, acid and pepsin. Ulcer is in the mucosa. If over the ulcer crater there is formation of a sticky gel-like sucralfate along with the proteins deposited over it, they serve as a physical barrier so that these aggravating factors do not come in the contact of the ulcer base. Hence it promotes ulcer healing, and once given it stays for 6 hours at the ulcer base. Once it sticks to the ulcer base, stays there for 6 hours. Another action is sucralfate delays the gastric emptying. See the aluminium portion, delays gastric emptying, so its own duration of action gets prolonged because it has to act in the stomach. It has no acid neutralizing action, and its clinical status is it is infrequently used because we need 4-6 hours it stays, so roughly 4 doses are needed. Dose is large, it has to be well timed. We have to give 1 gram large dose each before 3 major meals and at the time of bedtime for 4 to 8 weeks. So as this much of administration taking always before meals and at bedtime, patient may forget, so we prefer to use H2 blockers in PPIs over sucralfate, though ulcer healing rates are as good as H2 blockers. But we can use it as an alternative to H2 blockers or PPIs for stress ulcers without acid suppression. Try to understand. Sucralfate helps in ulcer healing by covering the ulcer crater, but we are not using it frequently for ulcer healing because it has to be given large doses, this that. But we can use for the prevention of stress ulcers as an alternative to IV H2 blockers or PPIs. Why? Because sucralfate is not neutralizing the acid, it is not suppressing the acid excretion. So pH remains acidic, whereas with H2 blockers or PPIs the pH gets raised. Acidic pH is not there, and when the pH is not acidic there is risk of overgrowth of bacteria that can cause pneumonia. Is the point clear? When we use H2 blockers or PPIs for prevention of stress ulcers, especially in ICU patients, what happens is acid is suppressed, so there is overgrowth of bacteria in stomach which may cause pneumonia. But when we use sucralfate for prevention of stress ulcers in such patients, acid is not suppressed, so this risk of pneumonia is not there. Hence, we can use sucralfate as an alternative to H2 blockers or PPIs in stress ulcers. Other uses are also there because it can cover the eroded surfaces and promote the healing. We can use it topically in cases of stomatitis, burns, diabetic ulcers, radiation ulcers, bed sores, or if there is excoriation of the skin. Important caution is that we cannot combine antacids with sucralfate. Why? Because for exerting its action it has to polymerize, and for polymerization the pH has to be less than 4. So if we give antacids, acid will be neutralized, pH will rise, and polymerization of sucralfate will not occur. This is again another important question. Why sucralfate should not be combined with antacids for the prevention of stress ulcers? Important ADRs: constipation in stomach, as it stays in stomach it can absorb the phosphate ions, so hypophosphatemia can occur, dryness of mouth and nausea. It can absorb many other drugs like cimetidine, phenytoin, digoxin, tetracyclines, fluoroquinolones, and decrease their absorption. Similarly, it decreases the absorption of phosphates, so hypophosphatemia has developed. Right? Sucralfate locally acting at acidic pH, so we cannot combine antacids. Right? We don't prefer for treatment of healing of the ulcers as we have better drugs available, and this has to be given repeatedly 4 times in a day. Dose is large, so we don't prefer it, but we can use it in ICU patients where there is a risk of stress ulcers, as H2 blockers and PPIs carry the risk of causing pneumonia in such seriously ill patients. Okay. Another drug in the ulcer protectives is colloidal bismuth subcitrate. It is a colloidal bismuth compound, but at a pH less than 5 it gets precipitated. Mechanism of action of colloidal bismuth is not clearly understood, but it increases the production of defensive factors, prostaglandin E2, mucus, bicarbonate ions. It detaches the H. pylori bacteria, which are one of the aggressive factors, from gastric mucosa and directly inhibits them. Then it forms a complex with the glycoproteins and covers the ulcer base. That is why we have included it as ulcer protective. It covers the ulcer base along with glycoproteins, and it absorbs the pepsin and reduces the activity of pepsin. So aggressive factors: H. pylori inhibited, pepsin activity reduced, ulcer base protected from third aggressive factor HCl, and the defensive factors are raised. 120 milligrams is given half hour before 3 major meals and at bedtime, It can heal 80 to 90% ulcers. That is, its efficacy is as good as H2 blockers, and it is used as part of triple drug regime. We will discuss with anti-H. pylori next group. It is also useful in some cases of non-ulcer dyspepsia and gastritis where H. pylori infection is there, because it is directly inhibiting the H. pylori, right? ADRs are headache, dizziness, diarrhea. Important one, there can occur blackening of the denture, tongue, stools, and chronic use leads to toxicity in the form of osteodystrophy, and sometimes there is encephalopathy. So colloidal bismuth sulfate and sucralfate are not the preferred drugs. We use sucralfate for prevention of stress ulcers and for other indications, burns, diabetic topical applications, they are used. And colloidal bismuth we will use as a part of triple drug or quadruple drug regimes for treatment of H. pylori, and that too in resistant cases. We will discuss in the next section. So, last group of drugs effective in the treatment of peptic ulcer is anti-H. pylori drugs. H. pylori